Testing. Um, let's see. Testing. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Common Sense Sports. I'm here to look at the trade between the Blazers and the Clippers. Um, Pretty big splash to start free agency. I wouldn't have thought the Clippers be the team to make this trade, but I gotta say I really like it from them. And for the Blazers, I know this might seem like they're getting fleeced too, um, but when you take into account how big Norman Powell's contract is, it's not really that bad of a trade. Um, you know, Obviously you'd like to think Covington has more value than that, but um, one, he's having a little bit of a down year. It's unclear how much of that is just being on the Blazers. They're kind of a miserable organization. Um, some of that is just shooting luck. I'm sure, like he hasn't been shooting this season. I know his percentages are low. I'm not really sure what his shot quality is looking like because I'm gonna be honest, they're miserable to watch. The Blazers are one of the bad organizations in the NBA. We've seen a lot of teams just get a lot better, a lot smarter, and Blazers are one of those teams that haven't done that. Um, you know, they haven't. It's clear they're not like contenders, but so I'm just tweeting this out. Tweeting that I'm live. All right, there. Um, so things first. Where does this leave the Clippers? So obviously they're trading away Bledsoe, who's been kind of their point guard with all the injuries. He's been playing a bunch. Um, Justice Winslow, I'm gonna be honest, like I haven't seen that much of him. I really liked him coming out of college, but he hasn't really panned out in the NBA like I thought he would. I've heard from some Clippers people that he's been playing better lately, but take that with a grain of salt. I don't. I haven't seen him, so I can't speak on that too much. I know Eric Bledsoe after this season still had another year left at like around 19-ish million, 19.37. And this year 125. So that's still a decent amount of money. I think Winslow had I think it was about 2 for 8, if I remember correctly. Let's just look at Bledsoe's last I don't know, let's say 15 games. Or let's just say last 14. Okay, so his last 14 games. All right, so All right, so I mean, he's a fine player. I don't really think he's the kind of guy you can trust in the playoffs. His shooting is poor. Um, let's look at Winslow now. Like, I don't know. I'm I'm not super impressed by Bledsoe or Winslow as players who can actually help the Clippers. I don't know whether whether either of those guys would help in the playoffs. I know the Clippers are without Kawhi. You know, Lou just said that his return this season looks bleak. But could they just be trying to throw teams off? Who knows? But even if this, I think Covington's the kind of guy who would look a lot better next to Kawhi and Paul George than he would not next to them. You know, it's this whole debate versus like floor raisers versus ceiling raisers, whether you even believe in that. I am a fan of that. I think off-ball guys who can provide value on defense, very important. Covington's so not only is he an off-ball offensive guy, he's off-ball on defense. And Kawhi and Paul George, in my opinion, are a little bit too old, a little slow, a little injury prone to be guarding like true twos. I know Kawhi was a two for most of his career, but he's just not that. Both of these guys are forwards now. Um, they're both strong enough, more Kawhi than Paul George, to guard fours. But they're both perfectly capable of any two wing lineup any team could throw out there. Not that there's any team that really has two legit wings that I can think of. Maybe the Celtics, but the Celtics aren't. The Celtics have their own issues. They're not a team that you really need to beat if you're worried about winning a championship if you're in the West. And then Norman Powell. He's a good player, but I mean, I'm not a huge fan of his. I'm not a fan of his defense. I know that it's tough to really have a good impact on the Blazers. They're really not a good team. And I know Damian Lillard gets all this hype for being this great star, but there are some major holes in his game. He doesn't know how to string out screens. He's an awful defender. His effort's there, but like at least when it counts. But like I don't know, he has a lot of weaknesses, and the organization as a whole does as well. I mean, I don't know what Dame has anything to do with this trade. Maybe it's a sign that they're finally willing to like rebuild. Who knows? But Powell, I don't really know much of him on the defensive end. I know he has some bad analytics, but I can't really speak to what his role is. I'm pretty sure he's kind of short, but he has like the strength to guard wings. Not like real wings, but like small wings. Maybe that's just because he's been out of place his whole career. I know that he looked a lot better defensively when he was on under Nick Nurse on the Raptors. And obviously his offense looks a lot better now than it did then. He's always been like a legit shooter, kind of a legit offensive creator. Depending on how he looks, I could see him, making a real impact for the Clippers. They have, obviously they have a really good coach in Tyronn Lue. They have a superstar in Kawhi who hopefully can get healthy. Although I question his ability to actually guard and create offense for an entire game. I mean, I don't want to sound bleak, but how many games into that like Maverick series did he like guard Luka all game? Like 2 before he like I don't know. I very much question Kawhi's durability. He has that. At least I'm pretty sure he has that degenerative knee thing. So, I keep on getting off topic. So weird talking with no viewers, but I am keeping this video up. All right, so I keep on getting distracted. All All right, real quick, while I'm on the point of Winslow, let me at least look at. He's played, I guess, 5 of the last 6 games. I mean, really good plus minus, but his stats are bad. I mean, I haven't seen him. I can't say anything about him. I mean, that's not true. I feel like you can tell you can have some idea of a player without actually watching them, but you need to like really look into the lineup they're with, their roles, and you kind of do need to understand it a bit. Um, I mean, okay. Here's the deal with Norman Powell. He is a legitimate shooter, like a guy with real. He's not like a top like 5 or 10 shooter in the league, unless he's made some jump that I wasn't aware about. But he's like he is a legitimate shooter, and the Clippers, a team that already has a lot of depth, that can only help them. Okay, so he's 215. That's what he's listed at. It's kind of stocky, but he's also 6'3". So I assume playing the 2 is the best for him. I've never really believed in Luke Kennard. Although I'm going to be honest, I know he's turned into a little bit of a fan favorite there because he's had some big games. I would not be surprised if Luke Kennard gets moved. Now I know that team is all about yeah, they're all about winning. So Ballmer is willing to foot any bill. This trade makes the whole Beverly trade look a lot better because I kind of questioned it at the time. I still do question it a little bit, but I mean it seems to have worked out. But I don't know. I mean, do the Clippers have anybody on their team who you trust in to defend a guard? Let me look at their roster. I'm just trying to think, and I wonder what Terrence Mann's defense looks like. I would not be surprised if that's pretty good. All right, Terrence Mann. Okay, wow, he's already 25. Terrence Mann's the same age as Luke Kennard. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're the Clippers, you can't feel bad about this. I mean, it's going to help your offense. Their defense has already looked pretty good. It makes Zubac or Hartenstein. I'd suspect Zubac because he probably has a little bit more value, just because I don't know. The league is weird. Hartenstein's played really well this year. At least the stats say so. I've always thought he was kind of bad, but everyone raves about his development. I don't know because you have Ibaka, who's your ideal starting 5. Now you have Covington, who can play an off-ball 4 or 5, and I guess in that sort of situation, maybe you can even run some like Paul George, Covington, Ibaka sort of team, depending on like the lineup you have to face. If you have a 2 who you don't really have to worry about, I have a feeling. I'm pretty sure I remember briefly looking at Terrence Mann and thinking that he is at least a solid on ball. I know he's bigger than Powell, but also I mean you're coming from whoever the Blazers have at head coach, probably some dumbass, to Tyronn Lue. I think the Clippers have had one of the best defenses in the league the last couple of games, which just a testament to either their rim protection or Tyronn Lue's maximizing the team. I mean, obviously, it's a win for the Clippers. I don't know how many other teams would want to take on Powell. I don't. You'd have to be a contender, be a team that doesn't really um, need an on-ball wing. Like I know Covington would be a huge target for the Lakers, and as a Lakers fan, I would have liked to get him, especially for this price, where you basically give up nothing of serious value. I mean, I guess Keon Johnson was like the 21st pick last year, I think. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I'm still going to get to the Blazers side of the trade in a sec. It's just obviously the Clippers are the more important, more relevant team. Um, and I, as a Lakers fan, and I, as an NBA fan, care a lot more about what the Clippers do than the Blazers. Just because, I mean, it's unfortunate, but this isn't the Blazers where they had like Batum, Matthews, Aldridge, and Dame, which, by the way, wow, what a team if they could have rounded that out. But this is a Blazers team that either barely makes it to the playoffs or doesn't get to the playoffs. And they have big contracts and they have bad defenders. And it doesn't really seem like they understand the direction that the NBA is going in. You can't just put a bunch of stars out there and just expect something to work. I'm not saying they have a bunch of stars. I mean, I think of stars as impact guys, not just guys who can score. But like, I don't know. It's so hard to remember what I'm saying. Not that I'm like used to an audience, but I'm like back and forth. Oh yeah. So I was talking about, I think, off and on ball stuff. So yeah, for the Lakers, like something like this wouldn't make as much sense. I mean, obviously you still take Covington because the Lakers really missed that five, and LeBron can play five in spurts, but he really needs to be committed to making the proper rotations, really contesting, really boxing out. And I don't think it's an effort thing per se, but I question if he really has the legs at 37 to both lead an offense and be like a defensive guy. Now, he definitely still has the talent to be like an all-NBA second team guy, LeBron. But, if you have someone like Covington, whose role on offense is kind of just stand in the corner, and his role on defense is do everything off ball that a big would do, a 4 or a 5, and do it well, then yeah. I'm not exactly sure what Covington's rebounding looks like, but I have to imagine with his arms and his intelligence that it's pretty good. He's a great processor. That works a lot better with like getting your hands on balls. But I'm sure he's a good team rebounder. I wonder what his positioning looks like. I haven't really looked at him too closely. I know when he's on the Rockets, they seem to be able to sandwich guys well, fighting for boards. I mean, part of what this means is that it's the end of the Blazers attempting to think that they can win, right? Because the team's not good. Dame's looking, is Dame regressing? Who knows? CJ, I mean, I've never really been a fan of CJ. I think he's a solid player, but he gets a lot of money, and I just don't think he's good enough or his role is valuable enough to really like work. Like Anthony Simons, am I really impressed by him? I mean, I guess he's high school. I know he's a big like has the handles, has the jumps. And maybe he just needs time to like develop. And he's getting better. Like he's a legitimate offensive player, but he's awful on defense. I don't know. It's just maybe if the Blazers had the right coach or some defensive players, they could make something of this. But like, I have to imagine that they should just go all in on selling. You would have liked to get more value for Covington, straight up, even if it means, I don't know. Maybe this is the best deal out there. I kind of doubt it. Okay, let me organize my thoughts for a second. If I'm thinking about teams who would take Covington and Powell as a package, right? You have to only really look at contenders because there's no reason for a non-contender to do that. Powell has a pretty bad contract. After this season, he's still getting like 4 years, like 75-ish million or something. Covington is 31, and he's only going to regress. And I don't know what his contract situation is like. I have to imagine he's getting around 15-ish, something like that. And you can be dang sure the Clippers are keeping him if this is last year. Yeah, okay. So he's getting paid around 13. This is the last year of his contract. Clippers are 100% re-signing him. They might even do it they might just do it right now. Because especially if they don't care that much about money, there's not really a huge downside. I mean, so Covington's shooting a career high from the line, 34% from three, but percentages only tell so much about a player's shooting ability. A lot of it has to do with shot quality. Knowing the Blazers, I think is it Chauncey Billups who's the coach? I think it was Billups coaches the Blazers, and then like Kidd coached the Mavericks. And I don't know, like he can do a lot for this team, and I really doubt that he's like this as bad a shooter as his stats say. And you're now going to the Clippers, so Clippers. Oh, I keep on getting distracted. All right, let me think of teams who could trade for Covington. All right, so the Nets would have been a really interesting spot. I don't really know what contracts they could put together to make it work. Let's see. I mean, obviously the Lakers like to think of themselves as contenders. Whether they really are, that's a different question. The Jazz, they would have been an interesting team. They have a great lockdown wing in Royce O'Neal. Having a lineup of Royce O'Neal, Covington, and Gobert, two of the best off-ball defenders in the league. And you have that lockdown wing, so he kind of would slot. I think a Royce O'Neal Covington pairing would look really good. If you can, with like a good defensive coach. I know Quinn Snyder has had some really good regular seasons coaching, or at least it looks like he has. I question his coaching in the playoffs. I mean, just thinking about last year's collapse, so many bad rotations missed, like just getting beat on the ball. Okay, so the Jazz would have been an interesting spot for Covington, and then I guess Norman Powell, if you're willing to eat that. I assume the Jazz think they're contenders. I wouldn't see why not. I mean, when you think about contenders who are willing to spend money, is oh, huh. I thought something big happened. It's just let's think. Sixers. I mean, if Ben Simmons were playing, actually, Tobias Harris is probably too big of a negative. Let's think. How much is left on his contract? Because I doubt he's really a better contract than like. Okay, so after this season, he still has 2 years, about 80-ish million. Okay, so if you're willing to give up more than the Clippers could have been, then the Sixers could have been interesting if Ben Simmons were playing. Because then you have the on-ball, off-ball sort of mix with Embiid. Let's think. What other teams would have been interesting partners? Where I think it also makes sense basketball-wise, of course. Maybe the Heat. Um, I mean, I have to imagine they think they're contenders now. Jimmy Butler gets hurt a lot, but he's an on-ball defender. I think, I like to think. Um, trying to, I mean, I guess also Bam can kind of guard wings. Honestly, the Heat would have been a really interesting team. Am I missing some big PJ Tucker, bringing back Tucker and Covington connection? But yeah, that could have been an interesting team, and contract wise, it probably actually would work. I mean, if the thing is, if the Heat don't really have the contracts they can trade away that make sense, unless you're willing to give up Kyle Lowry. But then also, what does Kyle Lowry's contract look like? Um, so, I mean, I'm just looking. Maybe teams value Norman Powell more than I think, but just looking at him, it's hard to see a team with like a natural fit. I mean, with the Nets, obviously you'd like to see the talent, and I mean, to be fair with the Nets, it's not like they have anybody on ball to begin with. Um, Maybe you have a lineup where, because do you really trust Claxton? I mean, that's could be interesting. I don't know who they could necessarily trade. Um, Grizzlies, do they have any interesting contracts? Maybe this could be their chance to really. I mean, the Grizzlies, I'm sure they have a bunch of picks. So even if they don't have like the contracts to make something interesting happen, I mean the Warriors, I guess. I mean, Draymond's already the quintessential like small ball five. Um, who's, I mean, I guess Draymond's probably better on ball than Covington is. Just because Covington's really kind of a poor on ball defender. That's why Fit's so important with him. I mean, he's going to be an impactful defender regardless. But if you need him to be an on ball guy, that's just not really who he is. And the Clippers, when healthy, probably, it just makes so much sense. The fit. I guess the question here is, could the Blazers have gotten more? I mean, I'm looking around the league, and like saying a Jazz trade makes sense. A Suns trade maybe does. Um, Warriors might be a team that's interested. Lakers possibly. Nets. I don't think the Bucks make much sense. Although who knows? Depends on what they value. And I mean, I don't know what Brook Lopez is looking like, but maybe then you just if you put him on the Bucks, then you have like a Giannis Covington starting lineup. I mean, Covington's good enough that he kind of has to start, right? I mean, Bucks have obviously they have a legitimate guard in Drew Holiday who can kind of do a lot on defense. I think Grayson Allen has turned himself into a decent player. I just remembered what he did, that monster. Pat Connaughton, DiVincenzo, both good defenders. Wesley Matthews, okay. I mean, he would have made some sense on the Bucks. I don't know how you can get the trade, like the money to work. Like I'm just thinking, like, yeah. Although they already have bought, boy, the Bucks really have a pretty talented roster. How I am. Is Budenholzer just this bad of a coach? Are they injured? That team is good, and they have some guys who should really gel well. Maybe Grayson Allen stinks. Maybe I'm misremembering. But either way, I don't think they have the money to trade for both. I don't know. I mean, Keon Johnson, even if you value him as a first round talent, which is very understandable. I mean, he was I think the 21st pick last year. I mean, he hasn't been super great this year. Like, again, truthfully, I haven't watched him much, and like, if you had to put him, if you put like 10 guys on the screen who are about 6'4", 190-ish looking, and I couldn't tell you which one's Keon Johnson. Like, I don't know what he looks like. I probably would be able to guess. I feel like he might wear like a number around like the teens, but like, come on. So, I mean, the point is, I don't know how good Keon Johnson is. I don't know why the Blazers would trade for him. This seems a lot like when the Giants traded away Odell and got the Dexter Lawrence pick, and then like they got Jabril Peppers back and said like they valued him as a first. It doesn't really make sense. Like, I'm sure Keon Johnson's considered a positive asset. I don't know why the Blazers want him, unless he's like some lockdown defender or like has that sort of potential. It doesn't really make sense. And then Bledsoe's not, really, he's not a positive asset. Justice Winslow, maybe you can get a second for him. It's just maybe they're like, I'm sure a lot of teams don't value Norman Powell that much, but it's tough from the Blazers to see. Like, I think they gave up a lot to get Covington. Like, they got their guy. They overpaid for him at the time, or did they even overpay given his contract? What value does a first round pick really have? I don't know. I mean, Clippers continue to make good moves. I mean, this might sound like a joke, but if I'm the Clippers, like, I'm doing everything I can to draft Bronny. Like, I know there's that like report that came out today. I don't really believe it, unless someone like I consider reputable reports on it. Like, how would it be a real story? But if the Clippers draft Bronny, you have all this talent, and I know they're all going to be old, but reunite LeBron with Tyronn Lue, and they might win a championship before that. I mean, if the Clippers can go into next season healthy, get like a rotation guard who's like a legitimate switchy modern guard defender, like an Alex Caruso. I mean, Carusos don't grow on trees. I know, as a Lakers fan, know this. But like, I mean, the Clippers are dangerous, and I know that they're injury. They get injured a lot. I know that they choked before. They have a coach. They have the bigs. They have an owner who's willing to spend whatever. Maybe. I mean, he's made some trades in the past that make you wonder. Also, Batum is a good guy. And if Kawhi and Paul George come back this season, like, I'm not really scared of any team in the NBA right now. I mean, Lakers are bad because coaching, no guards who can really play in their roles. They have bad spacing. They had like a month where they had this great play calling and then just went away. It looks like the organization's in strife at the top. It's always been the case. I've been saying this for years. They won a championship because they were just that much more talented than everyone else. And Davis had a shooting that was kind of an anomaly. But like, they still have the two superstars in LeBron and AD. Austin Reeves looks like he can be a real role playing like contributor. But like, you don't fear the Lakers. They're not like good. They're not even like an above average team when you would take coaching into account. Like the Suns, they're like I know their record's great, but like, and they are probably the best coach team in the league, and that's like a huge swing. But come playoff time, a lot of these teams start to get better at coaching. Um, so do you really fear the Suns? I mean, I don't think they have anyone on their rosters that's very good. Chris Paul becomes a, I know his defensive analytics look good this year, but like, I mean, he's kind of washed on defense. He didn't like magically get better. He's no lateral quickness. Any speedy guard can beat him, and you can hide him with Mikal Bridges, but like Devin Booker's not really a good defender either, and he doesn't really have a bag. He doesn't have counters to defense. Like, come playoff time, you get the right scheme and you can kind of shut Devin Booker out of the game. And then nobody else in that team can really create. I mean, campaign, I guess, kind of. It's even on the team. Yeah, he got signed like way undervalued, if I remember correctly. I mean, like the Warriors, another team that I guess if I had to pick a favorite right now, would be the Warriors. Combination of a coach, like an elite coach team. Steph Curry. I mean, I've been saying this all year, or at least most of the year, but it kind of looks like his decline is starting. I know he's had like a really bad stretch lately. I don't think he's, I'm not. I don't think the decline is that drastic. But I mean, Steph Curry doesn't look like the best offensive player in the league right now, and he's definitely a negative on defense. Like he's a very smart defender, but like, I mean, just physically, he's not there. The Warriors hide him so well though, but at the same time, the Warriors have like Gary Payton, Otto Porter, even Andrew Wiggins now. Like, I don't know how much I believe in Clay, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have Clay Thompson on the team. I'm sure that his defense is bad, Clay Thompson's. So I mean, but yeah, the Warriors don't really scare me as a team. Like if the Lakers were coached well, like, and they could get like one guard, like hell. I mean, this move makes me think just get Kenrich Williams. Maybe if you need to give up a heavily protected first, I mean, it's sad that the Lakers cap situation and asset situation has gotten to where it has, because they were 2 years ago they were in just such an elite spot. Then Pelinka came along, or whatever happened. I mean, Pelinka got Anthony Davis. He overpaid for him, but you make that trade 100 times out of 100 without thinking. Because maybe some other team decides to step up their offer. The reality is Anthony Davis is an unmissable guy. And we won a chip. But, I mean, contenders that scare me, like the Nets, look at them. I mean, you have Kyrie Irving, who won't even get a vaccine. He's going to miss half their games. You got James Harden, who looks like he's declining a bit. I mean, he looks injured, but Kevin Durant is injured. I mean, but none of those guys are good on defense, and they don't have great. So Kevin Durant doesn't have great defensive processing. I guess I don't really know how to put it, but like I don't think he's a good defender. I mean, obviously on offense, you put KD, Kyrie, and Harden next to each other, and those are about the three easiest guys to coach because they're true like hoopers. They can just get a bucket. But am I scared of the Nets? Like a team with talent should be able to beat them. I mean, just look at like net ratings this year. You have 3 teams over 5. No one in the East. The Cavs have the best net rating in the East. The Cavs, a team that scare you? They have 3 7-footers starting. I mean, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. And I wonder who their coach is. I mean, I should know this, but I mean, I'm impressed by them. But like, they're not like a contender. If the Bulls still had Patrick Williams, I would, I'd be at least a little wary of them. Maybe the Bulls could have traded for Covington. I don't know. I mean, like I'm not a huge fan of anybody on their team, but that whole Lonzo Caruso pairing is just about as good as it's going to get. I mean, okay, I'm not a huge fan on like I don't believe that DeRozan's a superstar. Um, I do like that team. I like how they're run. I guess I'm just saying like, they don't have like elite talent. Nobody in the league right now is matching elite talent with elite coaching. The Clippers have the potential to do that if things go right, but not elite coaching. But I mean, Tyronn Lue's clearly one of the best coaches in the league. And he's a clear positive. Coach rankings are hard to do. I like to do it like by tiers, and I think he's in the second tier. Like I don't think he's a Spoelstra or Monty Williams or Kerr. I don't know how much Kerr's involved with the coaching, but at least his teams are super well run. But like I would anybody if someone says like to my face, Tyronn Lue's the 4th best coach in the NBA, I would take it. So if someone said Kawhi Leonard's a top 5 player in the league, I would say okay, I can accept that. Paul George is a top 10, 15 player, sure. Covington. Then you add Covington, who's an off-ball guy. Because once you get those elite guys, then it's about how can you maximize the value of the players around them without cutting into the top players' values. It's what the Lakers are doing so poorly. You have LeBron in this stupid defensive role. Anthony Davis doesn't have any space because he can't create in space at an efficient rate. But like when you give him good offense, and he's not a superstar in offense in the traditional sense, but he is he's so dynamic, Anthony Davis, and if the Lakers were well run, like this league wouldn't even be close. I guess this is a long-winded way of saying like I believe in the Clippers. I mean, I don't think they're winning a championship. And honestly, I think Paul George didn't look super great this year. I guess the Warriors are my favorite. I don't know if I really trust the Nets. Lakers just look too incompetent to overcome roster holes. And relying on Kendrick Nunn is not really a good place to be. Sixers. I don't believe in their coaching. Bucks. I mean, I don't believe in their coaching at all, but they should have. It doesn't even so to the point where it doesn't really even matter that much. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, Clippers fans, you have to feel good. At the end of the day, Blazers fan, you probably feel bad. It's probably some apprehension, but you did get out of a contract. Maybe it's a sign that the team's moving forward. Now you just try to maximize Dame, and I don't know how much McCollum has in his contract. But see if you can get any value for him. Like if I'm the Blazers, just sell the whole team. And everyone on the team was value, even like Anthony Simons. Like just okay. So CJ still 2 years after this. Tough ask. And I know Covington. They traded this. I think this all started because I was trying to figure out how much they traded to get Covington. I really wish I could grow this so there's more like back and forth. NBA is in 14 projected salary cap and tax level. Wow, 121 salary cap. I guess that means profits have been. I know TV ratings aren't everything in sports, but like NBA's TV ratings aren't great. Don't get me wrong, the NBA is thriving. They have really good profit numbers. But boy, do those NFL TV ratings, those are crazy. Bro, let me think. I mean, what is there to say for making good moves? I don't know if they'll win a title. I know I don't want the Suns to win a title. Kind of think they have a dirty team. I don't know. I wish the Lakers would be sold. Why couldn't Steve Ballmer buy the Lakers? You know, any LA guys who really want to own a team and care about that? Mark Zuckerberg. I know he grew up in New York, but hey, you have the money, buy us. Damn sure his analytics team would be legit. I don't know, it's tough as a Lakers fan to see this because you should never look at a team and think there's like a non-zero chance I would be better than this person in this position. Like if you think seriously, you know, it's easy to say as a fan, like, oh, I'm a better than Vogel, but like just having a better lineup than Vogel is one thing. And I do believe that like I could have a better lineup than Vogel. But like, do I know the X's and O's on defense to any degree, acceptable degree? But like, do I like if I just grinded sports and I knew I had this job, could I become a better coach than Vogel or Palinka? A better coach than Vogel and a better GM than Palinka? Like maybe. Palinka, I feel more confident than Vogel about. Um, I mean, I don't know what financial constraints Genie is putting under them. It's just sad as a Lakers fan. Other teams are doing these moves, and you know, Blazers fans are probably in an even worse situation because you're the Blazers. Like you're not getting these lucky stars, like you know, like LeBron and AD, just forcing their way onto your team. You don't have this legacy of greatness that kind of carries you. You know, I've only really been a Lakers fan since like Kendall. I was originally a Knicks fan, and I kind of still am. It's just it's. I think it's okay to abandon teams if they show that they don't care about winning or if they're too stupid to ever get there. Yeah, you know I think fandom is give and take, right? You have to show something to the fans. You don't just you know. I know a lot of fans like to gatekeep. You know, like oh, you're not a true fan of this team. You hopped on the bandwagon. I mean, you don't become born into a fan like on like as a fan of a team. And the Lakers just have no organizational competence. And I know it's tough for some people to see because you know, especially you know, thinking about what my basketball knowledge is now compared to what it was a few years ago. Yeah, my takes are so different. Like at the time of the Dennis Schroeder trade, I was like, okay, good. He's a good shooter. I looked at like his raw on off splits and I was like, wow, is he an all NBA level defender? And he stinks. And I mean, I was always a fan of Danny Green. I wasn't that much of a casual, but like, but now I you know, and it takes a deep dive to go into a lot of these guys. I don't have the access to film or just the resources or time, and really no one does. So to watch like enough film to really get a good idea of someone. just I wish I wish they do more. You know, and they should do more. Anyways, I think I'm gonna call it here. I haven't really said anything, just lamenting the sad state of the franchise. But yeah, peace.